Good afternoon and welcome to Stockbridge Library's online poetry series. We are in season 3, and the theme this year is inquiry and the power of poetry in both asking and answering questions. Today we have poet James Davis with us, and James will be in conversation with John Gillespie. John Gillespie is the former president of the board of the Stockbridge Library Association, and he has spearheaded this poetry program for the last 3 years. John, thank you very much. A few words about James before we begin. James is a teacher, editor, and author of the poetry collection Club Q, which Edward Hirsch selected for the Anthony Hecht Poetry Prize. James's work has been featured on NBC News and CBC Radio, as well as Best New Poets, Nashville Review, Copper Nickel, 14 Poems, and the Bennington Review. He serves as poetry editor for American Literary Review and an associate poetry editor for Narrative Magazine. James lives in Denton, Texas, where he is a PhD student in creative writing at the University of North Texas. James, thank you so much for joining us. I will turn the program over to you, John, and you, James.
Yeah, Wendy, thanks. And James, thanks again for reading with our program. So we start off with what does inquiry mean to you?
I mean, broadly, it just means
just broadly. I mean, broadly,
yeah,
I think we're then gonna dive into, how that shows up in your poems. But I mean, how there are like some people that curiosity, inquiry is just like part of the thread of their life, and there are other people that maybe I don't ask as many questions. I think part of it, I'm just trying to get your perspective on what inquiry means. That's all.
I think for me, it means being kind of annoying.
That's good.
I think I was marked by some of my more observant teachers as being a kid who questioned everything and raised his hand too much in class, and I corrected teachers sometime. Like even as early as middle school, I would be trying to call my teachers out. So yeah, I think that impulse is really important to who I am in a way that I'm not even all that conscious of all the time. Like, I just want to know everything. My French teacher gave me this poster of Garfield in French saying "Je conteste tout," which means I question everything. So it means a lot to me.
So say that first word again. I'm trying to write down some notes. You said inquiry is being what first?
Kind of annoying, I think.
Yeah, annoying. Yeah, it's I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just really trying to get to the essence of everything, and if I'm ever confused, I'm not like shy about articulating that out loud, and being sort of not satisfied with insufficient or incomplete information. I think the polite thing to do in a lot of circumstances is to be comfortable in that ambiguity or lack of answers. And that wasn't a skill that I learned until I think much later in my life, is to just sort of chill out and be okay sometimes with not knowing or figuring something out later or jotting a note down. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I think our kids would say, we have a boy and a boy is 40, Ian's 41, Sarah's 39. Our kids would probably say that my wife and I asked them the same questions at different times, almost the same words. And they're all of a sudden they hear stuff and they like, okay, I'm running away to my room.
Yeah, I think a lot of questions are iterative or cyclical, or we do ask the same questions over and over and forget the answers. And
So because you're teaching at UT, right?
UNT.
UNT, yeah.
Yes.
University of North Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you encourage your students to, use inquiry as a tool for themselves, or?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, I taught creative writing this semester, and it was a class that like blended all three of the major genres. So poetry, fiction, and creative nonfiction. We had a 5-week unit for each. And the biggest thing I wanted them to get out of the class is that you have to use your imagination for this. This is all about the imagination. And I think questioning is just one effective way of accessing the imagination, because it's asking after the unknown, right? It's related to the unknown. So it's just one sort of way of kind of punching into that nebulous imaginary space. And if you aim the question correctly, you can kind of hang out there and do some exploring.
Yeah. And do some of your students resist the more detailed questionings, or do they all kind of mostly embrace it?
I think a lot of them embrace the basics of inquiry and questioning. I begin with the poetry unit in that creative writing class, which I don't think I would do it any other way. That just makes perfect sense to me, historically, and kind of in terms of the skills you have to build. But one of the poetic devices that the students really glom onto is anaphora. So beginning every line with the sort of same few words or something. And often the anaphora is like, I remember, or I wish, things that are poking into the imaginary space. And that is really fundamental, I think, to the experience of writing poetry, is that remembering and wishing, and like just really hammering at the doors of what you don't know. And students, they'll love that device, but they'll kind of spin their wheels a little bit, or they'll just repeat themselves, or that they won't allow themselves to really keep going on a particular path, I think.
So let me ask you just about your poetry, and just give you some perspective. So we've had poets say occasionally they, maybe purposefully, or they insert some inquiry or questions. And other people have said that the question just arrives in the poem. So I'm wondering if there's, if you're from both schools, or if there's one school that your poetry talks, uses.
I do sometimes add questions quite consciously. Like, I don't pretend that the question is something that's this completely organic little fruiting body that came from this pure form of inquiry. Sometimes I put questions in just because it's a musical device, right?
Yeah.
Like, questions raise the intonation at the end of a sentence.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you get stuck in a musical rut in your poem, or you just like, that part is done, we need something else, a question is the perfect kind of volta. And I think that that's well supported in literary history too is often like the Volta of sonnet will pose some sort of question or at least some sort of
Yeah.
challenge.
No, great. No, great. Yeah, I always like to get the take on it. I mean, some people just, talked about writing a poem, and then all of a sudden the question like drifts down from a cloud or something
I
and
know, I do
lands
think
on the
that
page.
I do
What's-
think that that happens too, and like I love it if I can get something like that in my poem. But like um, I also like to acknowledge the fakeness of what I'm doing sometimes.
Yeah.
I think Mark Doty, we got to talk with him in one of my classes a couple semesters back, which was lovely.
Yeah.
And he said that a question should be like a trap door. So a question should take the reader by surprise and bring them to this new sort of substructure of the piece that has been there all along, but has been invisible.
Great.
So I love that way of thinking about it.
That's right. I love questions. Questions have a trap door. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'd like you to read a few of your poems for us. Normally, if we had some people here, there'd be some interaction, some comments or questions from the gallery, but we don't have that. So you'll read some poems, and then we'll dive back into the conversation.
Okay, cool. Well, it's all right if I read some new things, right?
Yeah, you can listen. This is
Read whatever I want.
Yeah, there was one poet we had where we basically said, I don't know, once we start, you just go. And she's like, I don't know, this is the only reading where I could do that. Okay.
Yeah, no, I feel very liberated and free right now. So yeah, I'll read some new things.
Great.
And I was going to read some poems that are based on photographs, and I have the photographs with me too. So I'll show those as they become relevant. But I'm going to start with one that is not based on a photograph. This is a Scrabble poem, actually. So I am working on a series of poems that are based on all the 2-letter words in the Scrabble dictionary.
Oh boy.
It's sort of it's a wild hair up my ass that I got a few years back, and I'm still very dedicated to it. So this poem is called Mo, M-O.
Yeah.
And the Scrabble dictionary defines Mo as a moment.
Love it.
In a Mo, you will be transported to a civic amphitheater bedraped in rainbow flags, where a 13-year-old chanteuse will sing cumbia, and you and your besties will mildly salsa amid the tank-topped bottoms of June. In another Mo, you will be good to yourself. In another Mo, you will find love. You will find this Mo patient, accommodating. You will kiss in this Mo a tiny caramel-colored mole smack dab in the middle of a pale lower abdomen. All your life will be filled with Mo's, some empty and long as a Saturday, others full and short as a life. You may live in the Mo, or by it, or for it. The very small will refer to these as lifestyle choices.
Love it. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, my wife still plays competitive Scrabble with some of her women friends. So I'm gonna have to throw a Mo onto the rug upstairs,
Yeah,
Linda, I just had a Mo downstairs, and she'll well, you got a lawnmower, you got a Mow?
Yeah, and you could put an E in front of
Yeah,
Mo.
Mo. Yeah, Curly Larry. Listen, I grew up with Curly Larry and Mo, and I tried to imitate them. So
yeah. He'd be honored, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. The next poem I'm going to read is based on a photograph, and it's actually on my gallery wall back there. I'm going to go run and grab it real quick
Yeah.
and bring it close to the camera. So this is a picture of my father. It was taken in South Korea in 1976. I want to say, while he was stationed there.
What is that? The 7th Cavalry hat?
Yeah.
What is? Yeah.
Yeah. 7th
Oh, yeah.
Cavalry. I forget if it's
Cavalry.
or-
Yeah. CALVARY. Cavalry.
Cavalry. That's the one. Yeah.
No, the 7th is,
It's
very, very
Custer's
famous
unit.
history. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I talked to him a little bit about this recently, and he had a really terrible time while he was stationed in South Korea, and he opened up to me a little bit about that. And the poem I'm going to read is an acrostic poem based on this photograph that gets into his experience during that deployment. The title is Portrait of My Father in Uniform.
Yeah.
A flash reflected in the pupils of his drab olive eyes. Dad offers a glimpse of teeth, half a smile. Only one corner turns up. His ears, peach slices, mine. Sparse brows, high cheeks, pink nose, mine, mine, mine. Davis covers his right breast, US Army, the left. He's miserable and gorgeous, a 20-something victim of the officers' club. Once he opened its Quonset door, saw his superiors in the nude, and bolted an instinctual retreat. They make him drink. They make him find a girl on sale south of the DMZ on dirt roads impolite with rain, and bring her to the 4th of July luau. In the slight slump of his shoulders, I can hear the pig squeal. He poses against these men's white names stitched into red. His Stetsoned head covers the number 7, Custer's fabled unit, a pointless question mark. It's 1976. He's met his second wife, the mother of my half-sisters, who'll come to call him John Dad, follow him across the Pacific, loom like the helicopters he prayed he could land. From a pocket of his flight suit pokes a yellow pencil. Who did he write? God? His mother? How many times did he erase his final words? Dad, who am I writing these sentences for?
Is he still alive?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
Dad's alive and kicking. He's in his 70s now. Yeah, I talked to him about this photo very recently. So this pretty new draft that poem.
No, it's great. Yeah, 7th and then 7th Cavalry. You're right, Custer. Yeah, there's a bunch of other 7th Cal stories throughout history. So no, that was a great, a very, very, I guess, visual for me, just thinking about all the things you put in there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a theme in the collection I'm working on. And I'm actually going to read the title poem of the collection in progress next. And it's also based on a photograph. So I'll show that here. So this is, can you see it?
Yeah, it's a little baby.
That's me. And that is the family dog, Bert. And this was taken my first Christmas in 1985, and we were in Nuremberg, Germany at the time. So my dad was stationed in Bavaria, and that's where I was born. This poem is titled Self-Portrait as Laundry.
Love it. Love it.
Salvation is implied posed as I am in front of a blurry artificial Tannenbaum and my mother's creche, its plaster lambs and pendant angel barely visible. I am a downy 5 months, my bald crown enhaloed by the base's Bavarian sun. My clothes, appropriately, seem clean. White jumper, white sleeves. Each white hand grips a side of the eggnog-hued hamper. My expression, a visual whimper, mirrors the dog's. His name, Bert. I've always thought the crux of the manger lay in the piss-soaked straw, the tang of goat, a sort of compositional antidote to immaculacy. A shock of skunk white climbs Bert's chest to his black throat. We stare the same direction, toward the man who handles the camera instead of a gun. He dangles a treat to capture our attention. I'm still too pure to know that I'm his son.
Wow.
Okay.
How long did you as a family stay in Germany?
Well, my brother was actually born there too. So he's older than I am, and he was born in January 83. My dad must have been stationed there a little bit before that, I assume.
Yeah.
And we left to the States when I was probably a little less than 1 year old.
Okay.
So he might have been stationed there for 3 or 4 years or something. And I left before I had formed any sort of ability to make memories. So I just have the evidence from pictures and stuff.
That's great. Yeah, great. Fantastic.
Yeah, Bert is a very, very handsome dog.
When I saw the picture at first, I thought, I don't know, you're in Germany. Was Bert your babysitter? That was
I mean, it looks like that. He looks,
yeah, Bert's like, okay, I got him quiet. Take the picture.
Yeah, he looks very dutiful. But yeah, I'll read another poem. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a longer piece. It's written in prose, but I'm calling it a poem anyway because you can do that. And this poem is called Bottoming for Dummies.
Say that again. Say the title again.
Sure. Bottoming for Dummies.
Yeah, okay.
Midsummer Night's Dream plays a big role in my new collection.
Yeah.
And the figure of Bottom especially is a recurring figure in the book. My first top was an anagram for brain. He was not especially smart, but he tried his best to be helpful. He advised me to accept him as if he were the morning's first shit, pushing out to pull his fullness in. Just think about how hot this is, he said. I was 18, a year younger than Brain. His basement bedroom was freezing, the TV in the rumpus room blaring decapitation sound effects as Final Destination 2 threaded its tape in the VCR's mouth. I told him I was comfortable through gritted teeth until he no longer cared I was lying. A bottom should be palpable and mute as a globed fruit. When my middle school put on Midsummer, Bottom was the only other James in 8th grade, a class clown with a poetic bent, a precocious stoner who could play Enter Sandman on the guitar. Some days he'd bring the papier-mâché head to language arts, fingering the left ear like a fretboard. Bottoming is the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. The bottom in Nick Bottom is not a butt joke, but a dick joke, the bottom being a roller on a loom. Like a flute or a snout, it is a sort of shaft. Of course, Bottom is also a bottom, Titania's sub. And at the same time, she has made Oberon's bottom through Bottom's ass, the animal which traditionally horsemen would employ to shame haughty mares into submission. Once she'd taken an ass, she'd take just about anything. No surprise for the bottom, no surprise for the top. Every 2 weeks or so, in my mind's back room, I would switch James in for the wrestling captain or one of the soccer team. In my fantasies, there was no sex. The wrestling captain pinned his teammate and snapped his neck. James sat on the edge of the stage, naked but for the ass's head, and strummed Tears in Heaven. The 6th string in his lap covered his prodigious bottom. If I feel physically as if the top of my head were taken off, I know that is vomiting. Brain fucked me in his bedroom when his parents weren't home and in the driveway when they were. Bent over the hood of his Subaru, pants around my ankles, looking straight ahead into the depths of the forest that surrounded their property. I remember thinking what a good job I was doing at taking dick, at keeping quiet, at sneaking off and returning home unnoticed. It was like going to the gym, worth it the next day when I really felt it. While it was happening, I felt like a barn animal. Or rather, I felt like Brain was a barn animal. Bottoming is a political act because it involves telling the truth. I should have warned you about that one. Oh, it's so dirty.
Yeah, I think Wendy's applauding. Yeah, it's just yeah, I think no, you didn't have to warn us. I think part of it is we're trying to give people free expression. I mean, not like our Twitter fellow who pretends to do that, but
Yeah.
we like to give people the liberty to, say
Yeah.
what they want to say and share their poems. No, I think it was, listen, once again, it's,
Yeah.
I think, all your work has been very, all these images just fly up out of the work, regardless of what you've shared with us.
And I thought, for the theme of inquiry, this is like, that poem is important to the way that I'm thinking about inquiry, I think. And interrogating one's past, I think, is a big part of inquiry. It's part of what I'm doing in that piece.
Yeah, and I think, listen, I think those are important parts of your life.
Yeah.
And those are all the, the stepping stone moments on the path, and to go back and take a closer look. I like that, interrogating the past.
Yeah, thank you. Do I have time for another?
Oh yeah. We got plenty of time. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're only half an hour in. We can't spend the next half an hour. So no, listen, the whole, maybe we had a few poems. Let's just have another little conversation, then we'll get back to the poems.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So, just from I'm going to start. I've started to interrogate my past, and I went to Catholic school where I had to wear wool pants without lining and a jacket and tie. And I don't know, like eat strange foods that I never ate at home, which I never ate because I never ate lunch sometimes. It just, I'm going back to my past, and I'm 72 and a half. So this is, I don't know, 64 years ago or 60. So it's a while, but I've got some prompts. So I'm just wondering, are there other poems where you've done that, or writing that you've done that interrogation?
Yeah, I think that, Club Q is my first, the title of my first collection, and the Q in that title is certainly stands for questioning, and that's something I acknowledge in the title poem is the Q in LGBTQIA plus, it stands for questioning. And queer too, I think.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's sort of, it's a little amorphous, a little changeable. But so yeah, I mean, that whole collection, I think, is one big form of long form question. And it's in three sections, you know, and the second section is titled queries, you
Yeah.
know, so it's all those 2-letter Scrabble poems are sort of, they're like the result of a computer query or something, right? It turns
Yeah.
up this specific data set based on whatever inputs that you put in. So it's playing with that resonance of the word query. And then the first section of that book is titled Quest, and like there's something etymologically related between quest and question, right? Like going on a journey is also a type of quest, which is a way of questioning what exactly. I don't quite know like the entire etymological chain of events or whatever, but there's something about going on a quest or a journey or an adventure that is inherently a kind of inquiry
Yeah.
of the self and of um yeah, a way of proving, I think, proving what you're made of in a way.
Yeah. Great. So once again, I'm just trying to understand some of your growing up geography. So when you moved back to the States, did your family reside in one place, or your dad was in the military and you kept hopping around?
Luckily, my dad retired from the military when I was probably 4 or 5, so um we didn't have to get we didn't have to do the army brat thing where we, you
Yeah.
know, were in different states um willy-nilly. We
Yeah.
stayed in Colorado Springs pretty much the whole time. We did move around a lot within Colorado Springs for other reasons. But that was my hometown, you know.
Yeah.
That's where I was able to sort of make roots there and feel grounded in a way.
Yeah. And you say your brother now lives in Cheyenne, or
My mom lives in Cheyenne just as of very recently.
yeah.
My brother lives in Fort Collins,
Yeah.
which is pretty much as North Colorado as you can get. I have family in Denver area still. I have some family in Colorado Springs still. Um, so they're kind of spread out across the Front Range.
So should I ask the big question? How the hell did you end up in Texas?
Well, it's not my first time.
Yeah.
I was in Houston for much of the aughts. So I did my undergrad education at the University of Houston.
Yeah.
And so I'm used to even hotter, more uncomfortable than the Dallas
Yeah.
area. But I'm here now because UNT offered me a nice package,
Yeah.
basically.
Nice.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
good. 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 No, I love the interrogating the past. It really just resonates for me because I'm starting
Yeah.
to do. Yeah, I wrote down every school I went with from grade 1 to high school, and then what house we lived in, what year it was, so I can, because part of it is maybe it's just age. Some of like the dates and stuff were shape shifting.
Yeah.
My high school buddy said, my junior high buddy said, "Oh no, junior high was 7th, 8th, and 9th grade," and now you know how it changes. Now it's like
Yeah.
I don't know, like it's like it's 1 to 8, and then high school's 9. You know, so I've got a source that can do some validation for me.
Yeah, yeah, it is sort of like a computer query or something. Like when I'm sometimes if I can't sleep, like I will try to remember my old high school schedule or something. Like I'll try to remember what the periods were for every freshman, sophomore, whatever. And like somehow it's like you're doing self-maintenance or something that way.
Yeah.
By, like trying to remember these objective facts about your past. It's like holding whatever systems that form your identity. It's like running a fixed cycle on them or something. It's weird and kind of sweet how humans do that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, great. So would you like to read some more poems for us?
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read a poem called Zoom.
Zoom?
Yeah. And
Gee, that's a word I haven't heard since I've already been on 2 today.
yeah. Yeah, so this is a poem. This is a pantoum, which is a poem in which every line in the poem repeats once. And these actually became very popular during the pandemic. And I don't know if it was just the sort of rhyme between pandemic and pantoum. But I've seen a lot of these pop up, and this is sort of in that tradition. And yeah, I'll just read it.
Okay.
Zoom. I am not wearing any pants at the virtual reading tonight. Maybe you can tell by looking at the little box of James virtually reading tonight in a wrinkled gray sweatshirt with a littler box of James behind me on my gallery wall. In my wrinkled gray sweatshirt, I am aging, my vainest years behind me. On my gallery wall hangs a bright acrylic self-portrait of a twink, painted years before this reading. In Florida, my bright acrylic self portrayed in a deep blue V-neck, saying, "Hey." Before this reading, in Florida, the House proposed a bill in that deep red state saying gay might cost a teacher their classroom, their house. The proposed bill, like so many, is designed to peck, to accost teachers. Their classrooms feel a little less safe, less brave, like so many, designed to peck their students into familiar orders. I feel a little less safe, less brave every time I check the news. I'm a student of a familiar order. I write my little poems and hope every time I check the news that my words will change your mind. I read my little poem and hope maybe, I can't tell by looking, my words have changed your mind. I am not wearing any pants.
Woo. There we go.
There we go.
Thank you for wearing pants today when you went to the ball.
You don't know that. You don't know.
I don't know. You probably photoshopped them. Wendy, you'll have to edit this after the
No,
yeah.
I assure you I am wearing clean trousers today.
Okay, good. That's yeah, we have to send when do we have to send out some, haberdashery guidelines going forward. Yeah.
Good. Oh yeah, I stood up and got the
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
So yeah,
All right, cool. We're
good.
We're all square. Okay. I'm gonna read a poem called Epithets. I am the presser of buttons and buyer of sweatshirts, he who lies at home where it is warm and quiet. I am the prince of earworms, according to Susie, who is correct, harasser of landlords, the overreacher, muchas cosas, the technically proficient, the one note, steamed potatoes. He who feels slightly out of his league in terms of hands-on, back-of-house experience. He who does him. You are sweet talk and stickiness, mischievous beard oiler, hairs flossed from my teeth like barbecue sinews, the antic romantic, pregnant Chad, that old joke that used to be the future. You are pussy, my BB Sahara Benet, such good shit. The drama, the weekend, my you time and my me time, my wrestling buddy, my pre and afterglow, he with whom I get corny, he for whom I got back in the race, my cocktail of unfinished business. You are the worst, and my heart, my mountains, the ugly dog I love to hug, the human all those other humans bet on, floating up like paper, never paying out. We are the audacious school of repurposed writing. This page, the color, the texture, the give. We are the weather, that old thespian, forgetting his cues, scrubbing pots in the stratosphere still thick with winter. When our minds change, as they often do, we ramble over rivers of marble trout, agate perch, obsidian salmon, and shed many understandable tears, our sinuses infected, the stress, the baggage in over our heads. We are the elegists on the plane to our own funeral, our headphones silent yet effective against even the most solicitous stewards. Death of a sister act, Mort d'un boom boom. We'll keep working on the title. We are the self-lovers, the sore thumbs, our frolic, our denial, survivors of our particular inherited myopias, the storms we've ridden out. We speak to each other supine, fuzzy as ever on the other end of the line.
I love the school of repurposed writing. If you could send me an application, I'd like to see if I can.
You're in, baby.
I'm in. I'm good. I got the James Davis. Yeah.
Yeah. You got the nepotism.
I got the day. Yeah, good. Yes. Listen, nepotism is, making a comeback like everything else. Oh God.
Oh, sad.
So maybe one or two more, and then we'll and once again, I your poems are, I don't know what you'll have to come up with a word for it. The first one that came to mind is like provocative, but not provocative. Provocative is kind of that. It's like something's blooming, something's emerging. So I love it because it just,
I love
every other sentence there's
provocative.
something there's something that
I
just is.
I don't object to provocative at all, and I like the way you really relate it to blossoms and flowers, because I think that's what flowers do, is they provoke us. They provoke means to call forward, right?
Yeah.
Voke is the voice, and pro is sort of like,
Yeah.
So it's a way of calling people forward, and it's a power of the voice is to provoke. And I think how we provoke and how we use that power of our voice says a lot about who we are. So I'm happy to hear that my poems provoke in a way that you might associate with something beautiful.
Yeah, no, just part of it is, I think it just, I love it when, once again, listening to, our poets is, when images just spring from the words. To me, it's just like, it's like confetti. It's like the Macy's Day Parade. I don't know. It's like there's just stuff flying from the sky, and just I love it.
Yeah, language. I mean, it can be really, explosive. It can be there's so many weird associations with words that it can just, they can be these fireworks. I'm going to read a poem called every poem is a list poem. And I had talked earlier about how my students really glom on to anaphora, as if that is something that I am immune to. I love anaphora. Like a lot of the poems in my new manuscript are using that technique of using a refrain to
Yeah.
sort of restart the poem again and again. And this poem is certainly one of those poems. So I'll read it. Every poem is a list poem because every poem is a body, because every body is a list of bodies, ingrown and outgrown, worried, worshipped, warmed, occlusions, papules, pockmarks where the papules popped. Every poem is about life, especially the ones about death. And life is a list of lists. A and D, bucket and shit, top tens and next ins, and the list goes on, which makes it beautiful. And beauty is just a list of ideas about what beauty is. Pain, a numbered list, 1 to 10, 10 being I'm already dead, and 1 being complete paralyzing elation. Even the sweetest slice of Saturday should clock in at no lower than a 2.5. I am 30 and a list of words for nonsense. Hogwash, horse feathers, gammon, tripe. And words I know are words, but that's about it. Words like bedelium and talveg and uintaite that look mutated and are, because the dictionary is a list of mutants. Choose one mutant from the following list and make it your husband. Thermite, donkey work, Gentoo, plink. You chose donkey work, didn't you? Everybody does.
Yeah, I chose thermite. Isn't thermite the stuff that
I think it's
if
an
you light it on
explosive.
fire or something, it just like, yeah, it melts stuff or it does something.
It's some sort of industrial caustic thing, I think.
Yeah, I think once it gets going, it's like at 600 degrees. So you maybe people go into the donkey thing because it's a little less dangerous.
Yeah, it sounds less dangerous, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So one more, you think?
Yeah, one more would be great. Yeah.
Okay. I think I'll read the first poem that I have sequenced now in the current manuscript. It's called Juvenilia. The spring of '99, perhaps my happiest. Mrs. Glasgow had us write our own epitaphs for language arts. No one found them alarming. Our exploding bodies, our marginal kabooms. Comedy approached tragedy in the cafetorium. Together we gyrated to Mace and Biggie in our fug of hormones. I was a moorcock among moorhens. I penned an ode to Sheryl Crow, full of genuine pride for her clutch of Grammys. She's no ingenue. I knew. I wasn't too. I aspired to Bottom in the spring play, his despair hilarious as Pyramus, a puck in ivied diapers making him an ass, my ass, praised by the queen of the fairies. I was a royalist to Bjork and Alanis. My bedroom, a solitary stanza where I jacked off and sobered up and wrote myself into a bedsore. At my worst, I was tedious. At my best, I went outside.
Fantastic. So Wendy, maybe you could, as the only other participant, hopefully you're there. Maybe you'd want to come and have some comments or questions.
I don't have questions, but James, I just appreciate your work so much.
Thank you.
in here in my office clapping and.
Yeah, I
That's
see
great.
you in the chat. I'm grateful.
Well, we're grateful that you shared your work with us. So good.
Oh, it's so great to have this space to just like have people listen and to hear my work, you know, out loud, because I'm hearing some of these out loud kind of newly myself, you know. I'm hearing them in a way I've never heard them before.
Mhm, mhm. Oh,
No,
we're-
it's, as I said, there's a lot of blooming going on in the school of repurposed writing. Yeah, and you're getting me
Thank
going
you.
now, and I'm gonna have to start, as soon as I get done, I'm gonna have to start writing stuff down.
I need to credit that one to Elizabeth Robinson, the poet. She was a teacher of mine in Denver. I believe she's in Southern California now, or some sort of California. But she's very experimental. Not like my work really at all. But she was an incredibly like understanding and generous reader, and gave me a lot of encouragement when I was writing my first manuscript. And the Audacious School of Repurposed Writing was a coinage of hers that I was like, gimme, I'm taking that. And I believe she encouraged us to do that. I mean, that's what we were doing is it was in a workshop where we were sort of getting like very deliberately deriving inspiration from each other's work.
Yeah,
And I think that that's community, you know. It's not necessarily theft.
Agreed.
no. Well, James, thanks again. Happy holidays.
You
Have a
too.
safe flight up north, and watch out for
Thank you.
those headwinds or tailwinds, wherever they're coming from.
Thank you. Hopefully there will be neither, but I really appreciate the space and the time, and it's really great to see both of you again.
Yeah, fantastic. Really, just
Same.
I'm
Thanks so much,
Wendy
James.
knows I'm amazed. No, really, fantastic hour. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Happy holidays. We'll send you the recording. Yep, very good.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Great.
take care.
Bye.